I want to take you to a new place, perhaps. The science of today as being the mother of the technology of tomorrow. And we start out by just asking the question, what is your budget for scientific research? This is a debated topic in so many nations because the actual challenge is pure exploration with unknown returns on your investments in fields not yet fully understood by the public are hard to allocate precious funds to support. And what I aim to do in the next few minutes is convince you of how important that is. If any nation, any government wants to lead instead of follow in this world. So let me say without hesitation that innovations in science and technology are going to be the engines of the 21st century economy. This is perhaps the most important slide I can show you today. Engines of the economy. And so that we're on the same page, of course there are traditional industries, farming, manufacturing, customer service, entertainment, construction, fishing, tourism. These are sort of the traditional industries that have kept so many countries going over so many years. I can tell you that when any of these traditional industries grows, it's because it has been touched by science and technology. And so science and technology even matters when your focus might be on traditional industries. What I want to focus on now is the fact that you can actually create a culture of discovery. It's not simply, well, you do the discoveries and I'll do something different. Yes, maybe that can work, but any read of history tells us that the most fertile times in the history of civilization have come about when discovery became part of your culture. And I just want to show you some examples of this. Here's a picture that maybe you thought you would never see again in your life, if you have perhaps seen it long ago in school, the periodic table of elements. And it's color-coded in this version to highlight columns of elements that all make the same kind of molecules together as one another. So I have a program on my computer that can color code them in any way I want, so that in an instant I can see what elements have certain properties relative to others. The computer, of course, allows this. But what it also can allow me to do is to put the flag of the discovering country on the box, so that in an instant you get to see where the action was at the time this periodic table of element was being discovered. Not all of these elements have been known for all of time. There is research in laboratories supported by governments to accomplish this. Let's take a look. I know it's far away, but I'll highlight a couple of interesting points. The United States of America in the 20th century greatly valued the exploration of the atom, greatly valued discovery of elements. And so at the bottom of this table, when you go heavier than uranium, every single element was discovered in the United States over a period of time. We're no longer discovering elements in the United States. It's more spread around the world. 3 new elements not shown in this diagram were discovered just weeks ago. One of the discoverers was Japanese, for example. So it doesn't matter what country you're from, what religion you practice, the science is there and it transcends it all. The world can become a participant in the act of discovery. You see the British flag in so many places there. You see the French flag. You see the German flag. While the periodic table of elements was being discovered, these nations had high investments in the act of exploring what the foundations of nature are on this scale. And there's a bit of science pride in many countries. So we saw Ibn al-Haytham on the Iraqi note, a 10 dinar going to 10,000 in the world of inflation. Many countries do this. Of course, currency typically has your heads of state on there. That's understandable, and it's a time-honored tradition. But maybe you're not going to put your head of state on every single bill. You reserve some for famous people in your culture. Could be poets. Some countries have honored their scientists. And I have a personal collection of these I'm quite proud of. And if you go, for example, to Europe pre-Euro, you see some very famous scientists that they have honored from their own countries. In the upper left is Switzerland. We have Leonhard Euler, a brilliant mathematician. Galileo from Italy. We have Isaac Newton from the UK, England in the middle. We have Carl Friedrich Gauss from Germany on 10 Deutschmarks. Michael Faraday here, also from the UK. Louis Pasteur. His name, of course, is given to the pasteurization of milk and other products. So these are countries that say, here are citizens that we call our own, and we want to honor them in a way so that everybody sees it. Not just tuck them away on a hidden page of a history book. Let us display who and what they are and their achievements. If you turn over these bills, it has illustrations from their scientific creativity. Here's a good example. You go to Poland. These are two sides of the same note. This is Marie Curie, of course. And on the back is an illustration of one of the instruments that she used to isolate radioactive elements. There are elements named after her on the periodic table. She won 2 Nobel Prizes for her efforts in discovery. Let's keep going, even to the Middle East. There's the Ibn al-Haytham on that's the 10,000 note. We have Albert Einstein on an Israeli 5 shekels. Now, of course, Albert Einstein was not Israeli, but when you're that famous, everybody wants a little piece of you, and they want to celebrate you when you're that famous. So this continues. This is a fun one. This is from Canada. Recently, this is the $5 bill from Canada, and 2 sides of the same bill, and it's a prime minister from 100 years ago, portrayed there on the front. On the back are hockey players. Now, Canada realized they don't need to remind themselves that they like hockey, okay? Hockey is just something they do. So they redesigned the $5 bill to represent the Canada arm, an engineering marvel that is attached to the International Space Station, and it is up there now, and it has been running that way for 20 years. And they show that on the back of the bill, recognizing that this achievement from that country was much more deserving of being on the back of a common note, the $5 note, not a very expensive note that only wealthy people would see in their wallet, a lesser note so that it has widespread appeal. And so portrayed there is one of Canada's most famous astronauts, Chris Hadfield. You can Google him. He's a very popular person. Now, you can't really see his face, but I asked him who this is. He said it was him. So I have to believe him if this is what he tells me. But the point is, it is Canada being proud of their scientific and technological achievements. Another point, if we ask ourselves, what country in the world do we more commonly associate with excellence in engineering? I think by and large, we'd all agree that Germany would be very high on that list, if not the top of that list. It's a selling point in marketing, German engineering. And you can ask, where does that come from? Is that in the culture somehow? Is it in the water supply? Where do they feel this influence that the engineering is of such high quality? Now, I don't know if you remember the 10 Deutschmarks with Carl Friedrich Gauss, but if I zoom in on that note, I want to show you something. Here it is, 10 Deutschmarks, and then if you get in close, you will notice that there's a mathematical distribution function on the currency. This is real math. Gauss discovered the bell curve. You've all heard of the bell curve. It's mathematically, we call it a Gaussian curve, named after him. In Germany, they know this about him. They put him on a bill and they include the equation. Now, I bet most people, even in Germany, do not fully understand this, but that doesn't matter. It is a statement of the government that not only is he important because he's on the money, math is important. Calculating things is important. This is the activity of nations that want to share the spirit of exploration and discovery with its citizenry. Now, you can ask, suppose you do lead the world. I showed you that bottom row, the United States flag, and every one of those elements. Oh, by the way, many of those elements, because in the United States we discovered them, we actually get to name some of them. One of them is called americium. An element, by the way, which was later an interesting use for it. It is one of the active ingredients in the modern smoke detector. And so when you discover something, you get to name it, and you get to be the first to apply it, the first to make a sellable product out of it. This is what it means to lead when this is the mission statement of your government. But how long do you lead the world? Well, I'm an astrophysicist. I've wanted to study the universe since childhood. At age 13, I started noticing the names of the stars in the night sky. And I said, wow, these are odd names to me. They're not named Fred and John. They just have some other names. And I looked it up, and I learned nearly all of them are Arabic. Now, what did I know of Arabia at the time? Not much. I knew about oil. There's what the press tells you. And I said, how did this happen? And so I investigated in my teens. And I would recognize what all of my colleagues know. And that was the seminal role of Arabic science, which we just had an entire talk to explore. The seminal role of Arabic science in my field. We know this. I and my fellow astrophysicists. So I looked up Arabic star names. And 2/3 of all stars that have names have Arabic names. And here is the list. Okay, you'll be tested on this later. And I said, well, I'm exploring this. I'm a teenager at the time. I said, when and where did this happen? And that's what led me to the golden age of Islam. We can quibble about when it faded, but basically it occurred in this time frame. That's when I learned, oh my gosh, in the deserts, there's not many clouds. The stars matter in your navigation. And then I see the beautiful collections of astrolabes where navigation was raised to a high art. And I said, wow, that must have been an awesome time to be alive, this golden age of Islam. And then I would learn, I'm sharing with you my own personal trajectory of discovery, that the word algebra is an Arabic word. Algorithm is an Arabic word. The very numerals we use are Arabic numerals. And it all came together, all traceable to that period. Not only this, advances in mathematics, agriculture, engineering, medicine, navigation. I'll have you know that until this year, until this morning, the American Super Bowl used Roman numerals. Super Bowl, XLIV, that's Super Bowl 49. 49 Super Bowls have gone by numbered with Roman numerals. This year, Arabic numerals have triumphed. Super Bowl 50, which was just played this morning in San Francisco. And so there are the Arabic numerals coming in. So now, these discoveries were stunning. I can tell you that if that pace of discovery in science and technology had continued over the centuries into the 20th century, the 20th century is the era of the Nobel Prize. Alfred Nobel, Swiss inventor, invented TNT. And out of his earnings from that, created a prize for people who can do physics, chemistry, human physiology in ways that can serve civilization and mankind. Alfred Nobel. So I say to myself, if that golden era had continued, given how many Muslims are in the world, somewhere 1.5 billion, possibly higher. If that had continued, Muslims would have every single Nobel Prize in science that could possibly be awarded in the 20th century. So again, I'm on my own personal exploration and I see, well, let's find them. Where are they? So then I compiled a list. So this next slide is an account of every single Muslim who has won the Nobel Prize in the sciences. And for this, I include economics in the list of sciences. So here it is. Every single Nobel Prize that's ever been given, that's 116 years, here it is. The number is 3. 3. 0 in biomedical, 2 in chemistry. The one in physics, there's a little asterisk next to that. That's Abdus Salam, who's a Pakistani Muslim, who's a member of, I would later learn, of a subset of Islam that is not even recognized by the mainstream Islam in Pakistan. So do I count him as a full-up Muslim or not? Others wouldn't, who are themselves Muslim. So, but I'll put him in here just because you need it, right? So here it is, 3. 3. This has to change. It can change. It's not as though I'm not walking into the middle of Africa where there isn't such legacy of discovery and with some tribe there and saying, where are your Nobel Prizes? That's not what I'm doing here. I'm coming to a community of people that would have won all the Nobel Prizes had that even been a thing to win 1,000 years ago. And saying, what happened? This has to change. I lose sleep at night, dreaming of what discoveries lay unrevealed because an entire community of people that used to make discoveries is not. Where is Ibn al-Haytham today? Where is that mind? It's got to be out there. How many people even existed 1,000 years ago in the world? I refuse to believe that we cannot find an entire next generation of scholars who can take up the mantle from what has been so widely discussed from 1,000 years ago. And we know, I mean, there are books, you know, Destiny Disrupted. People have analyzed this. Golden Age of Islam. The Golden Age in decline. Something's got to change. What is the science of tomorrow? Somebody's got to be there. If not, there is no tomorrow. I remembered the World's Fair. Maybe an entire generation is going to remember this. Maybe the time has come to resurrect the legacy of discovery and exploration. This is the city of tomorrow I've been looking for, that somehow never got built. This is the right place to put the city of tomorrow. We kind of forgot how to do that back in the United States. We're distracted. Surely you know of the planned mission to Mars. Al-Amal, hope. Hope with a plan. Coincident with the 50th anniversary of the founding of the UAE. I'll let you know that space is quite potent. Space is considered a gateway science because in order to do it, you need physicists and geologists, biologists, medical doctors, experts in robotics, material science, telecommunications, aerospace, all the engineering fields, all wrapped up in one. You know something else about space? It will produce the first trillionaires. The first person to mine asteroids for resources, deflect asteroids. That's an expensive mission. You don't want that one to go wrong. Harvest water from commerce, vacation destinations. The first trillionaires. To understand the value and potency of investments in science as the foundation of the technology that drives wealth in the 21st century. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my challenge to you. Thank you for your attention.